Okay, so here we are again in San Diego, and Tom has some great angel experiences. As you found out if you watched the last video that we had, he's continually talking with God and now with angels, and so he has a good house cleaning story to tell us.
All right, I got a call from actually one of my that I mentioned a lady earlier who I prayed for, and it was really kind of cool. She basically she told me that the prayer had really helped to change her life, and I'm not saying that I did anything, but it's really incredibly gratifying to play a part in helping God to touch another person's heart.
Cool.
And basically, when I prayed for her, it's like it's like she found that she was more peaceful. She was calmer. Things would work better. She actually hadn't been to church in 50 years, not that long, but 30 years, and because she was turned off, and now she went to church with me, and she bought a Bible, and it really made a big difference that she's now wanting to be more connected with God. So that's how I think how my ministry has been starting. When I pray for people, I believe that's what I'm doing is I'm acting like a conduit to bring God's love into somebody. So I'll pray for 15, 20 minutes, sometimes a half an hour or more for someone, and I just put my hands on their shoulders, and then basically just visualize love, and I can feel the Holy Spirit flowing through me. It feels like pulses sometimes, real intensely, and oftentimes people, especially believers, will have supernatural experiences. I've had them feel warmth, or have some healings, or had visions, or a sense of peace and calm or love. It's really miraculous to see when God will touch someone.
It is, and I'll have to give my confirmation on that too, because Tom has treated me several times, and I've known Tom for over a year, and I don't know, it's been, I guess, about 4 months, 3 months ago that I started him allowing, because I've had some problems with my back and things like that. And I thought it was real special that after the chiropractic treatment, he just stands there and prays for 15, 20 minutes. And I could really feel, the Holy Spirit just come. It's warmth and peacefulness, and I'm not like some people that had any miraculous things happen, but pain does go away, and that itself is just comforting to have that go away. And so the treatments have been very, very good that way. Cool. But you have a house cleaning story that
Well, I wanted to lead up to it because this woman, who's a friend, we've become friends, and she actually knew me before I was saved, so she's seen both perspectives, which is kind of interesting.
That'd be interesting.
So maybe we get on her one camera one time to say that. But basically, I had done a house cleaning, actually, which we'll have to save for another story, where I but anyway, I got a call from her, and she said that a friend of hers had thought that she was being attacked by witchcraft. She lives in a house that has she shares a common wall, and she's hearing chantings, and someone had poisoned her dog, and she actually had been hospitalized with hearing voices, horrible stuff. And so my friend asked if I could come over and take a look at the neighborhood and the house and see what I saw. I said, okay. And so I basically, 2 days later, we went over there, and I drove around the neighborhood, and I had a real strong sense of oppression. And then I just did not like this neighborhood. And when I went to the house next to her, the woman's house, I could see creatures crawling on the roof. This is in the spirit. And they had this really odd-looking metal grating, like you'd say, to keep people out. The metal grating almost looked like in the spirit, like I call like tangle vines or something. But I could tell if you got too close, these vines would reach out and wrap them around your neck and strangle you. It's a real dark feeling from the appearance of them. So anyway, we're standing there. We drove through the neighborhood several times, kept going back to see what I was feeling, and then basically the woman had come out. We were actually, my friend just thought we'd just go over and take a look at the neighborhood, but their friend came out, was throwing something away in the trash, and she said hello, and I was sitting in the driver's side, my friend was driving, the lady walked around to the driver's side and leaned in, and she asked if, told her I was there, and said it was all right, and she said sure. And when I looked at this woman in the spirit, she told me that she was getting lasered. Some of the things she was saying was really confused, to say the very least. But when I looked at her in the spirit, I could see all these pit vipers that were crawling all around her.
Oh, wow.
and they were biting her. And it was really dark. I've never seen that kind of aggressiveness with demons. I've seen demons a number of times doing things on people. Maybe I can share that a little later, but basically these were real aggressive, real mean. The pit vipers, there were like dozens of them all around her, just biting and biting and biting. And so my friend asked, well, can Tom come in and pray? And I said, okay. And she said, okay. And I have to admit, I'm kind of new to this deliverance game, and I didn't know exactly what to do, and God doesn't exactly give you a rule book, you know. You know, like, how are you supposed to do this? I don't know.
As long as he shows up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're hoping, you know, the blind leading the blind. At least that's what I felt. So we went in there, and I took the chair, put it right next to an open door in their entryway, maybe 3 or 4 feet away from the door, just past the door. And I said, well, a friend of mine had some music. I always like to put worship music on because it sets the tone of the event, and I feel the Holy Spirit flow more, especially with certain types of music. So we said, I'll just put my hands on your shoulders, and I just envision love, and I just stand there and visualize love, and usually the person will get relaxation and peace or warmth or, you know, a lot of things. You know, it just depends on what the Holy Spirit does when he shows up.
Okay.
So I was basically started to pray, and I told her that basically that there were vipers around her, and that she should see herself grabbing these vipers and tossing them away. So she spent like 10 minutes just in the spirit grabbing things and tossing them towards the door, and I could see the pit vipers thrown off, hit the ground, and then we were like shining a bright light around us, and the vipers would just crawl out of here real fast, out through the open door. And this went on for maybe a half an hour. I'd say I prayed for at least a full half an hour.
Okay.
And just rebuked the demons, and I prayed for a warrior angel, because I can see warrior angels. There's different classes of angels, which at some point maybe we can talk about. I call, like, well, real quickly, they've got like guardian angels, they've got warrior angels, and these are basically, they engage in battle. And
now, did you learn this from some seminary, or did you just see these?
I see them, I saw them, I read, you know, Blake Healy's book, he talks about it, and they just seem to be different. And it's surprising, I've since got to know my warrior angel. There was another occasion where I actually did some house cleaning, and which I'll tell later, where I actually... there was this bar that we cleaned out spiritually, but I'll tell you that later. But after that, a warrior angel I saw, he said he'd been assigned to me because I was a higher priority target. And now he accompanies me. He told me his name, but he asked me not to reveal it, so I won't. But basically, I now can see him regularly around me.
Cool.
And he's funny. He always stands pretty close. And I've asked him, well, what is it you do? And he says, well, I protect you. And I said, well, is there stuff happening I'm unaware of? And he says, I'm sorry to tell you this, Tom, but it happens a lot more than you'd be comfortable knowing. So there are attacks. And it's surprising about the fellow, he was really smart. And I always figured these guys would be powerful and strong, but...
Your warrior angel.
Your warrior angel, yeah.
Really
but
smart.
He was a bright guy. If anything, having talked with him, I would consider him to be a scholar.
Wow.
It's just because he said a lot of the battle is more intellectual. The adversary, the demons are bright and intelligent, and they're devious, and you have to be smart to try to counter them. Because it's really all about persuasion, it's about persuasion, that the dark side is trying to move you away from God, trying to discredit God, get you to blame God or not trust Him, or to be angry at Him, and that's what they do. They whisper in your ear in a literal sense. And I've actually heard it. One part of my gifting, my voice, if I quiet my mind, when I have sometimes, if I'm going through some frustration times, I can actually literally hear them whisper to me. And sometimes I've seen other people where I can actually look at the person, see the demon around them, and hear what the demon's saying to them. And it's funny. It's surprising.
Wow.
For those people. The closest thing that I could think of theatrically would be Lord of the Rings. If you remember Grima Wormtongue, and he's standing there and whispering into the king's ear, and the king is dark and depressed and confused. That's what it's like. It's very insidious. They literally whisper. They'll take a kernel of truth or kernel of your emotion that you're experiencing, and they blow it out of proportion. And you think it's your emotion. And they'll try to, like I said, it's about to move you away from God, and the angel's job is to counter it. But it's a hard job, because basically it's easier to believe negative things than it is positive things. Just look at the news.
And how do you as a human being help the angels battle that?
Well, I am the angels, I have a pretty direct communication, and I've gathered this is unusual. So the angels basically, you mean with me personally? Is that what you mean?
Well, both angels and us.
Well, sometimes when I'm with patients, angels will ask me to say things to them, and I'll just relay what they say, words of encouragement, attitudes they're doing. It's surprising. A lot of things that supernaturally that I hear are just they're not life. They're not like words from God where it's so amazing, but they're edification. They're making you feel better about yourself. They're warning you about attitudes, maybe trying to bring to surface hidden fears and doubts that you have that affect your decisions by their unfelt presence.
Yeah.
And what the angels try to do is just bring those hidden fears and motivations to the surface so they can be part of your decision-making process.
I know in my life what's really helped is, just having that confidence in God that He's willing and able to help us. And that any of these feelings that are coming across to me, like sometimes depression, sometimes I'm just feeling, just different feelings that I don't want to feel. And I used to just thought that they were just feelings. But I'm learning that they are feelings, but they're instigated from the dark side. And that if I just tell them, hey, I don't want you anymore, get out of here, and angel, get rid of them for me. And God, Holy Spirit, get rid of them. That helps tremendously a lot of times.
Tell them about the authority that you've learned.
I have learned a lot through who we are really in God's standing. Like God gave His authority to Jesus so Jesus could have full authority here on earth, so that when He died, He could take away all the things that we've done wrong in our life, and that's why He died. But He came back to life to give us all His authority that God has given Him. When He came back to life, that authority is now transferred onto our lives, so that all the authority that Jesus has to combat the evil one, to combat the dark side, is now given to us. And that upon realizing that, my life has been really transformed into just being more of a light. The more, and Tom has a lot of experience with that, of just filling himself with the light of God, and how we can really combat the dark side with light. But until we really realize that we have this power from Christ who directly transferred it to us, it's kind of hard to feel our full authority. So tell us a little bit more about the light, because you battle things with light.
Okay, it's kind of interesting. I have a buddy of mine that we went to a bar, not a bar, kind of like a sports bar for a while.
You're walking down the street and you come across a bar.
Well, that's a little different, but the light, which I'll probably tell for another story, but basically God showed me. I went into a sports bar. The waitress walked by, and I could feel that she seemed to be more intense. And what I mean by that is sometimes when I feel the Holy Spirit, I can literally sense the heat of the light. Like God's love is a presence that can be thought of as a light, and I literally think it's actually a brightness. And I believe that the more connected you are to God, especially if you're Christian, or that you actually receive your connection is deeper, so the light is deeper inside you. And this light is literally a brightness. When we all walk around, we give off a bubble of light, a bubble of influence, and this light can affect things. And I'm coming to realize that you can actually open your heart to God and pull Him in, or become more aware of it. I guess He's already there, and you're able to use this light in a defensive capacity and in an offensive capacity.
Right.
Well, anyway, to make a long story short, I was at this bar. This woman seemed brighter to me. I thought to myself, I wonder if she's a Christian. She was young and kind of attractive, so I figured, well, maybe I'm, just paying attention to the other thing, But that was kind of funny. But so anyway, at the end of our meal, we asked her, if you don't mind a personal question, but are you a Christian? And she said, yeah. She said, well, why are you asking? And I said, well, I can see in the Spirit, and you seem to have a brighter life than people around you, and I just wanted to see if I was right. And she said, and it was funny, she didn't react negatively. I thought she'd think we're nuts, but she kind of smiled and said, thank you so much. But I had someone else tell me once that I had a brighter light, too.
Huh?
So
Cool.
that added credibility, and that had to do with a story later. But back to the house. So we're back in the house. I basically I finished praying for the woman. I asked for a warrior angel for protection, and then he appeared right there in front of us, and I could see them. Generally, they tend to be very, very big guys, oftentimes silver or goldish armor. They'll sometimes have symbols in the armor. I can't recognize them, but I can tell they're there. Mm-hmm. They often have a sword and they'll have a pike. I often see them with like a long metal, like a spear, but real long and thin. And sometimes the end of the spear will get red hot, like when they're using it. And I asked for protection. He said, "Well, I've put boundaries around the house, protection." And then I said, "Well, that's cool." And when I looked out through the door, I could see like a golden bubble now. The house basically had like an entryway, then you went out to the garage, and I could see through the door there was a golden bubble. So basically, then,
cool.
Yeah. So then I don't know how it walked out, but we went out in the backyard to take a look at things, and I could see the bubble had extended all the way around the boundary of the house, like following the property line or the fence line,
wow.
And it was maybe 10 feet above the house, and like literally a golden bubble. And right next door, there was like you'd see these really dark clouds that were kind of like rolling in. They were right next to the bubble, and I kept trying to bounce into the bubble, but they couldn't get in. And also, once I started praying, I had felt a sense of oppressiveness from the neighborhood. That sense of oppressiveness was gone.
Nice.
So we were standing there, and then the lady said that she could hear these voices. She could still hear them, but it was a lot quieter now. And then my friend, who said that, she said, "Tom, it sounds like there's somebody talking right next to the wall." And the lady said, "Yeah, I can hear them talking." And I couldn't hear anything. So I walked over to the wall, put my ear next to it. I couldn't hear a thing. And I said to my friend, she said, "Tom, you're kidding me, right? I can hear there's voices talking on the side of this wall." And I said, "I'm sorry, I can't hear a thing, And I asked God, "Well, what's going on?" And he said, "Because your light was so bright that basically," and I've noticed this, sometimes if I feel the voices, I reach out and hug God, or for me, the most effective way to get rid of the negativity is by expressing affection and loving God and hugging Him. And I see God as like a long bearded fellow, kind of like Father Time looking thing. That's what's my image. So that's what I'll see when I see Him. And I give Him a hug, and I open my heart to God. And I can I've learned with a little bit of practice now, I can feel my heart full of light, and I see it expanding out like a bubble. And it can literally push away the demons, and I can't hear them anymore.
Wow.
But so that's when he says your light had gotten brighter. That's what I was experiencing, and I couldn't hear a thing. So we went back in because my friend was freaked. She said, "Well, I can hear voices really clearly, So which is kind of cool to me because it was confirming something was really going on. Because, like you see this stuff, warrior angels, boundaries of light. It sounds like I've taken a little bit, messed around with some little, drug or something, and, making all this stuff up. But anyway, went inside. They asked me to run around the house, so I walked around the house and visually filled myself full of light, and I can see light coming out my chest, almost kind of like Iron Man. I've watched too many science fiction movies, but basically I would clean the entire house out, and then so we were there for maybe an hour and a half.
So you went like through the different rooms in the house, or
Yeah.
you just stood in front of the house and cleaned the
No,
whole
I
thing?
went through the house. I went to the garage, and I just walk around, and I
Okay.
visualized this beam of light coming out, cleaning
Everywhere.
everything.
Cool.
And
Wow.
and I cleaned the entire house, and basically we were there for like maybe an hour and a half, and she said she felt much better, and the voices were real quiet now, and so she thanked us for coming over, and
That's
so
really cool.
Yeah, so we walked outside. I stepped past the bubble, which I kind of saw myself doing, but wasn't paying that much attention, and then I realized I was now in front of the garage next to the car. I felt the sense of oppressiveness again, and then I could hear like there were voices, but I couldn't. It's funny, I couldn't make them out, but yet I could tell there were like voices on the edge of my consciousness trying to get me to hear things. But now I could hear them, and then when we got in the car, my friend, she said I could hear the voices, and still could hear them, but I couldn't. And it was funny, but once I stepped out of that boundary, the protective bubble boundary. I could feel the oppressiveness of the neighborhood. I could feel a sense of anxiety or a sense of just evil boding. It's hard to describe. It was wild to confirm this.
Well, let's go back to, because I want to end this because we're losing light here. But you said that one way you really envelop this light is just you imagine hugging God, and embracing His light and letting His light flow through you. How exactly was that again?
Basically,
Just
that's,
as a review.
yeah, I basically, I mean, for me, I express affection. I tend to be a very affectionate person, so I will hug God and see myself hugging Him, and literally, or feel Him hugging me, or just, and feeling warmth and protected, and basically, I've just learned to like feel it in my heart, and it's just like you can actually, the amount of light you have, you can actually expand it out. And maybe because I can see it, but literally it's a bubble of, we all have influences, but you can literally expand it out. And I've had another story.
As we fill ourselves more with the light, then we have more light to expand out. So
Right.
it's more continual infilling and letting it expand
Exactly. And you influence
great.
everything you go to. When you're feeling yourself full of love, a sense of joy and peace, it's God's presence, and His presence is tangible. And it's literally, I can see it as a light that expands outward. And you can, I think, if you really work on filling yourself full of love and joy, it takes, for me, it's taken effort to try to open my heart to God, but I've gotten better and better at it.
Right.
And I'm able to see this light. And you can actually influence things. I think you can actually defend things spiritually, and you can attack things.
Well, let's end on filling us with love, and because I think that's important for us to do. Like you said, you spent a lot of time working on that, so it is attainable. I really, really like that the more we work on just getting closer to God, practicing filling our hearts with love and light, and expanding that out, we can really influence people and make our lives brighter and lighter and better. So thank you so much for listening and watching, and more stories to come.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Appreciate that.
Yeah.